The 1991 AFL Premiership season, proudly brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors, BP, Westpac, CUB, McEwen's and Vulcan Hot Water.
They dominated the 70s and set new marks in toughness and endurance in the 80s. Now Hawthorn moves into a new era, ready to take on the young challengers. But the stand that rang with 100,000 voices are silent. The Melbourne cricket ground is empty and eerie as the old girl gets a long-awaited facelift. For the first time since the war years, the biggest crowd in Australian sport is elsewhere. At the foot of the Dandenong Ranges, in the population centre of suburban Melbourne, lies VFL Park, a stadium that will today celebrate its 21st birthday with its proudest moment. A torrid encounter between East and West, between a Hawthorn side that has won 8 premierships since it arrived as a power in 1961 after years of heartbreak. And for the first time, a team from the West Coast, a team that has dominated the competition in 1991, only to fall to Hawthorn in its first really big test on week 1 of the finals. Today they meet again. The Hawks of Hawthorn, proud and haughty, against the Eagles of the West Coast, brash young pretenders to the throne. They meet on this last Saturday in September in the 1991 AFL Grand Final.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 7 Sports live and exclusive coverage of the 1991 AFL Grand Final. Coming to you from VFL Park, Waverley in Melbourne, Victoria. Wherever you're watching around the world, we certainly hope that you're going to enjoy it. We have almost a capacity crowd of around 77,000 fans here this afternoon, and I welcome our viewers through England, Ireland, the United States, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and last but by no means least, the people of Nauru. Wherever you may be watching, sit back, relax, and enjoy a piece of history. Because this country of ours is divided today. The West Coast Eagles, after 5 years, have made it through to their first grand final, and they're up against the experienced old stagers. Hawthorn playing in their 8th grand final and going for their 8th in 9 years. Quite an outstanding achievement by the Hawks. This has become commonplace over the past several decades. It's interesting to look at how both sides made it through to the grand final. The Eagles, we're in their rooms at the moment. They had a couple of minor hiccups. One was losing to Fitzroy in the home and away games, and then the next week they went down to Hawthorn in Perth, and people then began to ask the odd question. But they steadied the ship. They defeated Melbourne, then Geelong, and here they are playing Hawthorn. I mentioned the Eagles and how it could divide the nation. Well, if we've got excitement here with some 77,000 fans, I can tell you for sure, even though I'm 3,000 kilometres away, that the city of Perth is truly throbbing. Let's take this preview of the big game from Stephen Phillips.
The city that stunned the world with its audacious and successful raid on the America's Cup in the 80s is at it again. Out to shake the sporting establishment and snare the symbol of football supremacy, the Australian Football League Premiership Cup. To say football fever has Perth in its grasp is an understatement. Such is the frenzy in the West Australian capital that the departure of the West Coast Eagles on Friday prompted a live television show. Eagles fans had poured into Melbourne all week, and early this morning the Red Eye Special Brigade tumbled into Tullamarine. This first foray into an AFL Grand Final by the West Coast has upset supporters here in Melbourne, the long-time home of this distinctive Aussie game. But it's been a week where tradition, it seems, has gone by the boards. On Monday night, an Irishman won the game's highest honour, the Charles Brownlow Medal. His mum and dad flew in from Dublin to witness Jimmy Steins record a runaway triumph. There was only one team represented at the annual Grand Final motorcade through Melbourne's Central Business District, the men of Hawthorn, who've been there before, 7 times in the last 8 years. But it's a drive they love. And then there's today's venue. While the MCG is undergoing its facelift, VFL Park in Waverley is set to host its first grand final, and the fans have been waiting eagerly since sunrise. Grand Final day is one to savour. From early morning at the Southern Cross, where a couple of thousand eggs have been cooked to perfection for guests at the North Melbourne Grand Final breakfast. Grand Final day in Melbourne is about people, and with VFL Park restricted to less than 80,000, the crowd will be the most intimate in 45 years. It's a day when everyone is on a winner.
Well, I think Hawthorn. Very close game.
Well, I think the Hawks because of experience. I think Hawthorn are going to win.
I think it'd be good for the game if the Eagles won, because I think it is truly a national competition.
It's always a day to show your colours, to flaunt the brown and gold of Hawthorn, or ruffle the local feathers with the blue and gold war paint. It's a day when the roads are choked, when the air is alive, and when public transport is stretched to bursting point. A day when you can enjoy a pre-match snack, dine in comfort, or sit in the privacy of an air-conditioned super box. But that's what an AFL Grand Final is all about, and the countdown is well and truly on, here at VFL Park on this last Saturday in September.
VFL Park here in Melbourne and the 1991 Grand Final. A bit of history being made today. Not only are the Eagles being represented for the first time, but this is probably the first and last time that this ground will be used for a Grand Final. Renovations to the great southern stand at the MCG will be completed by next year, and that is where the 92 final will be held. But we have a great crowd here, in excess of 77,000, and there's no doubt that the finals atmosphere is with us once again. Two gentlemen who know all about finals, and in particular Grand Finals atmosphere, are with me at the microphone. Ross Glendinning and Ian Robertson. Gentlemen, welcome.
Sandy. Thanks, Sandy. It's a big day, isn't it, really, Grand Final day. You just can't beat it. It's a culmination of a big season for everyone, Ross.
It did seem a little bit different initially when you consider the atmosphere that's always there at the MCG, but today has built up to a nice crescendo at the moment, and the people have filed in very quickly in the last half an hour, and it's looking nice and busy and exciting.
And I'm sure that the AFL would be ecstatic about the crowd, because it's the first time, as Sandy has already mentioned, that an interstate club has participated, and we've got pretty close to a packed house, Sandy, and that's great. I think that augurs well for the future of Australian football.
Gentlemen, we look forward to your comments throughout the afternoon. Also joining us is Gerard Healy. It's a big day not only for the players, but also for the umpires. The men in white for this Grand Final are Brian Sheehan and John Russo. Here's Gerard with them now.
Yes, well, here we are in the inner sanctum of Waverley, in territory that has very rarely been got into before, with two umpires, the Grand Final umpires, John Russo and Brian Sheehan. John, the Grand Final selection must be the highlight of your career.
Oh, yeah, no worries, Gerard. It's been a real highlight this year. It's been fantastic. Excellent.
And who gets the privilege of the first bounce?
Brian.
Well, I've got it this year. It certainly is a great honour and a great feeling to hold the ball up to start this magnificent game.
And how are the nerves?
Under tow. I mean, obviously you feel nervous, but pretty cool and calm.
How'd you sleep last night, John?
Like a log. Yeah, hit the sack. The phone rang at 8:15 and I didn't answer it, so I still don't know who it was, but I slept like a log. Yeah, no.
And Brian, what were Bill Della's last-minute instructions?
Well, just really to enjoy the day and savour all the moments that happen during the day.
Well, fellas, congratulations and good luck in the big game today.
Thanks, Gerard.
Thanks, Gerard.
Yes, as I said, it's a fine achievement not only for the players, as we see the Hawks going through their final warm-up routine before making their way out onto the ground. It's also a great achievement for those two umpires, Brian Sheehan and John Russo. We wish them well. We also wish the West Coast Eagles. My word, the Melbourne airport was hectic yesterday and early this morning. They do have their fans here. More than 5,000 people have flown across the Nullarbor to see if their side can create history today by winning their first flag after coming into the competition in 1987. A fantastic achievement for them to have this sort of success after such a limited time in the competition. There's one of the former greats of the game, Brownlow medalist, former North Melbourne champion, Keith Gregg, and he is looking pensively on, just pondering the outcome of what will be